Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope you all are having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have a better tomorrow. So today, I wanted us to have a discussion about Weiss and why she actually should not have lost to Vernal. Now, I wanted to bring up some points about Weiss, and I wanted to bring up her abilities and just discuss this, as well as bring up some comparisons to her previous fights in the series. So anyways, sit back, relax, I hope you all enjoy, and let's go ahead and jump right on into this discussion. So, Weiss, let's talk about her for a little bit. Looking at Weiss, Weiss has really come very far from who she once was in Volume 1. Her character has definitely grown, she's definitely changed, and as the tsundere type of character goes, they usually go from being that cold character that is usually pushing everyone away to a character that gradually over time warms up to everyone and becomes a lot better towards everybody. And of course, we have definitely seen that with Weiss, because obviously starting off with RWBY and looking at her interactions with RWBY and how they first met, they certainly didn't start off on the right foot. And of course, over time, gradually they became best friends to where they're at with their relationship now. And looking at Weiss, over time, her teammates, obviously she's become more open with in comparison to how she used to be. And it's very good to see how her character's grown, what trials and tribulations she has gone through to get to the point to where she is at as a character. And I have to say, I really do like how she's changed. And, she is definitely broken out of her shell. And that is a great thing, because obviously characters can now joke around with her, and obviously she acts very different from who she once was. And the thing is, her character has gotten a lot of good treatment when it comes to development. Development is one thing that Weiss has definitely not had a problem with at all. She's developed very well, she's come very far, and she, out of the protagonist side of characters, is one of my favorites when it comes to development. I think that as a protagonist character and how she's been focused on, she's been developed very well. She's very open with her friends now, and she obviously tries to be there to assist them whenever they have issues or problems. And looking at Weiss as well, a lot of people could relate to her character because of the problems and the conflict she's actually gone through, because not everybody in the world is actually going through that perfect lifestyle of having the perfect family. Then again, there's no such thing as the perfect family, but not everybody has that good life that, everybody wants to have for a family, and Weiss did not have that good family life. And, she also has trained and tried to do everything she can at the best of her abilities. She has tried very hard to get where she's gotten to this very point, and I have to say that Weiss personally is one of my all-time favorite characters in RWBY because of her struggles and because of what she's gone through, and I relate to that. I really enjoy her character, and I think that her character has actually been treated very well when it comes to character development, but there have been some issues with Weiss, and as much as I have loved her character development, the problem is Volume 5 and how her fight actually went against Vernal. There were some issues here, and, as much as I do love Weiss and I love her character, I really have a lot of problems with this fight because there were a lot of things that actually did not go the way that they should have, as well as it seemed that Weiss herself had acted like she more or less forgot a lot of the talents that she used to be able to perform when she actually fights. Strange thing is that Weiss herself is stronger than Vernal, and if we were to go by power scaling, she definitely outranks Vernal, and the problem is that they acted like she was not very strong at all. They acted like she was very one-dimensional in her fighting style, and I've brought this up before, but I have to really bring this up again to kind of help you understand a little bit. And the thing is that, don't get me wrong, this is cool to see how Weiss fights, but with Volume 5, it was not really her style. The problem is, which one of the things I'm going to bring up, is that she fought very oddly in comparison to how she used to fight. And the thing is, when she actually fought with her sword, for example, her weapon is a sword. It is not a baton. And the problem is, she waved it around like it was like a magic wand, like a baton, and didn't really fight that much with it, which was very unimpressive, and it was very depressing to see that Weiss kind of got treated like that. And, she focused so much on her summonings rather than she did anything else, and even with her glyphs, she was so slow in comparison and did not use them as well as she has in the past. And there's so many different things she can do with her glyphs, and she did not perform them the way that she has in the past. And it was very disappointing to see this for Weiss, considering that she is not a character that is weak by any means, and oddly enough, she has her glyphs just completely not even used to their full potential. And the other problem is that Weiss tried to focus way too much on her summoning. I mean, it was exceedingly over the top whenever she's trying to summon the whole entire time. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the summoning is not a cool method. I mean, I think it's a cool thing entirely. But it doesn't need to be something she needs to completely rely on and always just go to. It can't be her go-to ability. And this obviously got her taken down by Vernal. She obviously lost her aura because she kept trying to focus so much on this. And not only this, she didn't use her dust like she usually does. And this is another problem because her dust has been one big part of her style as well, and for it to just be thrown out there like it didn't really matter other than making an ice wall to try to constantly summon during the entire fight. And that's not Weiss at all. She has never been usually suited to one specific thing. Whenever she has fought in the past, she has been very diverse within her fighting style. And of course, this led to her almost dying, which goes upon Miles' sadistic sense of humor to kind of grab you into, waiting till the next week and holding you on suspense. Now, of course, that was a part of his little joke there, obviously, which I think this mistreatment of Weiss here within this volume, at least during this fight, I think was kind of bad because I feel like they just didn't know, or at least go back on Weiss' style and try to maintain her previous style as opposed to just try to make her one-dimensional and just summon the entire time when summoning has not always been her method of fighting. Obviously, before she learned the summoning, she used her glyphs to a very good extent, as well as fought with her sword and used the dust as well. And so we're going to break it down into what she can do with all of her abilities. So we're going to talk about all of them. And, of course, this is the thing about Weiss. Weiss can do a lot of different things with her glyphs, and we've seen them over time from the white trailer onward through the volumes. We have seen her do several different things. And so let's go ahead and jump into this, because the glyphs, which is Weiss' semblance, and this is the ability to create magical circles, which obviously are known as glyphs, and these glyphs are able to perform a variety of different functions that can be enhanced by dust. So she uses the dust to obviously enhance the glyphs, which obviously change around. And considering that she has so many different things she can do with these, she can obviously boost speed and act as platforms. So the glyphs can boost her speed as well as anybody else that she uses the glyphs on, and they can increase their speed, and they can also act as platforms. That's why we've seen Weiss or other characters like RWBY, for example, be able to walk on these or jump around to be able to go different areas because they can be used as platforms. Obviously, glyphs can also be used to launch foes into the air and restrain them in place. So we've obviously seen the glyphs as well, which do this because we've seen, obviously, RWBY be launched at the Nevermore in Volume 1 by the glyph, and obviously it shot her up, and then she used the glyphs as platforms because Weiss obviously used them for that, and that allowed her to go up there and to actually take down the Nevermore. Now, the other thing that we have to look at is glyphs can be used to allow Weiss and her allies to run on walls, which I just said. Obviously you can run on walls with the glyphs, so that's another thing that it allows to do. Obviously, the glyphs can block attacks, so we've seen Weiss do that before. Not only this, but the glyphs can enhance the projectiles of allies, in which we've seen this in Volume 2 with Blake, whenever Weiss enhanced Blake to take down the missiles that were coming from the Elysian Paladin. Weiss can also use the glyphs to lift objects and launch them. She can also use them to attract and repel objects, and, she can obviously restrain things in place. Not just this, but Weiss also has time dilation, which, by enhancing her glyphs with lightning dust, Weiss can create the glyphs that speed up the actions of the target. So her or anybody else that's under the influence of the glyph at that moment, they can speed and dash through. We have seen Weiss do several different things, and that is the thing. Another thing that's important is her summons, which is something that she's been trying to focus more on lately. Not saying that's the best thing, in which her sister was obviously trying to help her learn how to do this. Now, her sister didn't say solely rely upon the summons, but she was trying to help her with another method that would actually enhance her style. And looking at Weiss, she could use these summons in a better way than obviously she was performing them in Volume 5. Now, if Weiss had stuck to her previous style that she has in the previous volumes, as well as the summons, she probably would have been able to actually use the summon or have a better way to actually make the summon come out of this. Because looking at Weiss' style, she could have made use of the summons, but she doesn't have to do it right away. What she could have done was she could have specifically just been working with her glyphs, for the most part wearing the enemy down, and then once they're to a point where they're weak and that she has an opening, she could then make a summoning and then attack with it. That would have been the better way to have actually used the summoning. So now, let's look at Weiss on other details. While fighting the Armagigas, she actually launched this thing into the air before restraining it with glyphs. So the Armagigas, let's think about this thing for a minute. It's supposedly as strong as an Elysian Paladin. So one of those huge megasuits that you've seen Torchwick use or some of the White Fang members use in Volume 3. Yeah, that thing is strong enough that it can punch through pillars. So when you think about the Armagigas, that thing is insanely powerful. But let's think about this as well. Because if we look back at the White trailer, Weiss got punched by this thing. It punched her, and she went flying, and she still got up. I mean, yeah, that's how she has her scar over her left eye. But if you think about this, she got hit by a massively powerful being. A massively powerful thing. And that is nuts to actually think about. And that means that Weiss is very durable if she could get hit by this thing and survive. And it's not just this, but Weiss also used her glyphs to hold this thing up. This thing has to be extremely heavy. And, you know, this also has to go upon her abilities as well. And to see that Weiss was able to do this, she was able to hold this creature up, this was an impressive feat by Weiss. She did something very impressive, and she was also able to defeat this thing. So, obviously seeing what Weiss could do, dashing around it with the glyphs as well, accelerating her speed, you know, using the dust to actually counter this thing and attack back, Weiss was very impressive against this thing. And another thing we have to look at is the Elysian Paladin. When she actually fought against this thing, which, by the way, take in mind, Velvet got hit by this thing and got knocked out, and she saved Velvet from an Elysian Paladin when she actually summoned the Armagigas' arm and sword and attacked through it and beat it. Now, you have to remember, she did attack this thing and she did beat it with a swing. So, this shows you that Weiss is very, very powerful. And that, honestly, to me, is one of the best moments in the entire series. Not just Volume 3, but in the entire series when she actually summons the arm of the Armagigas. And this shows that she is a very powerful character. Weiss was also able to create an ice sword that was able to slay through several Beowulfs. This was another feat she was able to accomplish. Weiss is a very powerful character by the way she fights, and she fights pretty dirty sometimes. Sometimes her fights are actually dirty. When she fights against, you know, the human or Faunus characters, she fights in a very dirty method. And another thing we have to think about, Weiss has also been pretty strong considering that she was able to block the strikes of an Armagigas' attacks. This thing is so powerful. I mean, yeah, she staggers when the Armagigas attacks her, but she's able to actually block these attacks. This is literally insane that Weiss is this powerful, and she matches the Armagigas strike. This is actually crazy that Weiss is actually this strong, that this creature that is supposed to be as strong, if not stronger than the Elysian Paladin mecha suit. And this is insane. This is raw strength that Yang herself had to build up anger to be able to punch and break the arm. You have to remember that. And this shows that if Weiss is this strong on her own, whenever Yang has to use her semblance to compare to that, that is a very good power for Weiss. That shows you that she's a lot stronger than people actually think she really is. And, you know, I think a lot of people really don't think about this. I don't think they think about the strength that she compares to. And when Weiss was fighting in the food fight, whenever she actually hits Nora, she creates a shockwave. And you have to remember, she didn't have Myrtnaster. She just hit her, and she creates a shockwave with the swordfish. This is raw strength, ladies and gentlemen. This is insane that Weiss is as strong on her own. And, you know, I'm not saying she's the strongest character. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm saying that she's a lot stronger than people give her credit for. And as we look at this as well, whenever she fought the lieutenant, she deflects the White Fang lieutenant's strike and knocks him to the ground. Not only does she do this, but she knocks the lieutenant into the air with multiple strikes. And of course, she dashed herself up in this fight with the glyphs, and this shows you that with the glyphs, she is very powerful as well. And she is actually very intelligent on how she's used her glyphs. She's used them to her advantage within several different fights. Not only this, but Weiss tackled Flint into lava. That is completely impressive. Of course, yes, she did get knocked out during that moment, but she still survived, and she obviously tackled Flint into lava. I mean, how many times do you hear that one? I mean, as a character, Weiss is very powerful, very durable, and, you know, when you actually think about it, Weiss also cut through several Elysian Knights, you know, which are the bots that the military was using. She cut through them. She used, you know, her glyphs to actually speed and dash through them. Weiss is a very powerful character, but the problem with this is the reason why she realistically lost in this is because of a little thing known as plot convenience. And it's unfortunate because Weiss should have realistically beaten Vernal, and Weiss shouldn't have lost that fight at all. Weiss should have won, as a matter of fact, considering that the progression of the series has taught us one thing. It's taught us that Weiss is a very powerful and a very intelligent character, but alas, it had to happen for Jean to tap into his semblance, which realistically it didn't really have to. But, I just think that that was a bad reasoning to actually have Weiss lose a fight to somebody that was certainly weaker than her, when Vernal realistically wasn't anyone special other than a bandit. That's all she was. I mean, yeah, maybe she's had some training, but in comparison to Weiss, I don't think that adds up at all, and there was a big inconsistency there between the power gap. There was a huge power gap. And, I don't think a lot of people look into Weiss this way, and I think we should give Weiss more credit on the things that she has done, and a lot of people don't really look into it that way. And, when we look at the accomplishments Weiss has actually been able to do, she's done a lot, actually. And as her character has grown, she's grown in power, but Volume 5 really didn't treat her the way it should have in regards to her fighting style. And I think that Weiss deserves more credit than she's given, and credit is given where credit is due, and Weiss obviously deserves more credit. But anyways, let me know what you think down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did enjoy, hit the video with a like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and share this with your friends if you found this informative or useful. Well, anyways, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful day today, and remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow could always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you, and I hope you all have an excellent day out there, everybody.